All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast, brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. I'm Stephen Burnett with Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi, and with me is Catherine Mansell, Q Grader and Director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, Louisiana. How are you today, Catherine?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. For getting better, getting over the cold from last week. You know, it's been a thing. Each week, we set aside 10-ish minutes to field questions from home coffee roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and most importantly, enjoying coffee. Send your questions to questions at RIYpod.com. That's questions at RIYpod.com to get a nice shout out from us and to get your question answered in an upcoming episode. Before we dive into today's question, we were going to talk about an exciting sale we have upcoming at Coffee Bean Corral. Mm-hmm. We do it every year, and it is the third biggest sale that we do. I think third. It is the Christmas in July sale, and it really is Christmas in July. That's going to be on the 24th of July, and so as you're getting ready to buy your coffee upcoming through the summer, I think it's going to be 25 coffees. I don't think we've finalized it yet.
There's normally quite a few. Yeah.
Normally, it's a good selection of coffees, and it's a really nice discount as well on those coffees. So keep in mind that is coming up. You can see more about that at coffeebeancorral.com. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a place to sign up for our email list where you will be notified of sales and things like that when they come along. But let's dive into today's question. Catherine, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. This week's question is all about cold brew, which is a good time of year for that, no doubt. And this is from a listener and friend of ours, Alon, who writes, and he's got a long question here, so we're going to take it apart piece by piece. It's fun to drink cold coffee in the hot and humid summer, and cold brew is even better due to its deep taste. I agree.
Yeah.
I would like to get recommendations on the best way to achieve that. Best type of coffee bean for a cold brew. Best type of roast, light, medium, or dark. I'm an espresso guy, so light roasts aren't usually my thing.
I get it.
Best grind for cold brew. And then he has a recipe. He says, I use a regular pitcher to do the cold brew in. Just put a 1-to-10 ratio of water and coffee in the fridge and wait overnight before I strain it. Is this a good enough technique? So those are the questions. Thank you, Alon. We appreciate the question.
Thanks, Alon.
Yeah. So, Catherine, what do you think about that?
The best type of bean for cold brew, I think, depends on what you want from your cold brew. So when I first got into cold brew, it was because of how hot and humid New Orleans gets during the summer months. Even though I'm from here, I'm from Mississippi, which it is hot and humid in the summer, it hits a bit different in New Orleans, so it's quite extreme. Last summer was my first go round at trying to do cold brew, and I went with the basics. I started off with Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and then jumped over to Indonesian coffees and tried Java, Papua New Guinea, Bali, and all of those roasted at a medium dark roast ended up being very full bodied, very low acidity, especially the ones from South America ended up being really chocolatey, which I got really great feedback from customers at Current Crop about those. Our store manager down there, Josh, has been roasting coffees quite a bit lighter for cold brew. Some Ethiopian coffees, some Indian coffees as cold brew, which I would have never thought to do. But have turned out really nicely. The ones from Ethiopia tend to be very fruity and bright. You'll have some acidity there when you keep it as a light roast for cold brew, but it was pretty refreshing. Yeah. So I think it just really determines what you like in cold brew, which origins you should start with.
Yeah, this goes to something that I feel this question a lot when people call or email in. You know, what's the best coffee for espresso? What's the best coffee for cold brew? What's the best coffee for pour over? And really any coffee. Like, it really depends on what you're looking for.
Right.
But you can roast and brew coffee in any method. And there's some coffees I think shine better at certain types of brews. But by and large, there's no rules in this thing.
Right.
You can enjoy just about any coffee any way you want to.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I just want to say, a lot of people find that cold brewing coffee really helps with stomach acid in the morning. Like people that say that coffee is too harsh for them, a lot of times they'll go to cold brew because the cold brew isn't quite as harsh as a traditional, hot brew method. As far as best grind, it's a coarse grind.
Yeah, like it's sort of like peppercorns.
Yeah, yeah. This is, this is almost confetti, right? Like, you don't want it fine at all. You want it very coarse because it's gonna extract, but it's gonna extract over time. And those fines can also get through the filter and cause some sludge. And because typically you're going to keep cold brew for, days and days at a time. It can last up to a couple of weeks. And, you don't want those fines continually extracting over the time. You will get some of that unwanted flavors in there. As for his method, what do you think of the pitcher and the 1-to-10 ratio?
Really, if it tastes good, if you like it, then that's perfect. If you're serving it to other people and they tell you that it's too light or it's too dark or it's too much or it's just not enough, then you can go back and adjust. There are many golden ratios for all the different brew methods out there, but it really depends on what you like. If the 1-to-10 ratio has that perfect cold brew and you think it's amazing, then it's a really great technique.
Yeah, that's good. And it actually reminds me of how I got started enjoying specialty coffee because I did a big pot and cheesecloth. That was my whole method. I already had the pot. Cheesecloth was super cheap.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'll put my money into coffee because I didn't have all the fancy stuff that I have now. And so it's a great way of doing it. We do sell the Toddy cold brew system at Coffee Bean Corral. Do y'all sell it down there?
Okay, yeah.
At our current crop, they both carry that Toddy. It's a level up from doing it kind of, with what stuff you already have, kind of the MacGyver way of doing it. It's easier to do. It's got the nice carafe. It's got the double filtration system so that you don't get those fines. Like, it's an upgrade from something like this. But again, if you're enjoying it this way, keep on keeping on, right? Alon, appreciate the question. Thanks so much. Hope that was a good answer for you. And we'll move on real quick. And we were at Coffee Fest this last week, last weekend, and I got to do a Coffee Quality Institute course, which was super fun. And it was on the CQI flavor standards. And I got to dive into the very technical world of like taste and flavor. There was a lot of slides involving what taste buds look like and how they function, and myths busted about how your tongue perceives taste. And it was like I was taking furious notes, and I've never felt so nerdy and so out of my depth at the same time. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
But yeah, talk a little bit about the CQI flavor standards and what like the whole goal of the CQI organization.
CQI, Coffee Quality Institute, is about continuing to increase the quality and the lives of coffee. So Coffee Quality Institute works with farms all around the world to make their operations more sustainable, make the coffee quality that's coming out of all of their operations as high as it can be. Most people think CQI is only about cupping coffee. But there's quite a bit more to it. You can talk about what you taste in coffee, but then breaking down those flavors and the standards of them in a way where you can test yourself. What can you look out for what is negative about what you're tasting, what's positive about what you're tasting. So now I've never taken a flavor standards class.
Yeah.
So I missed out on the specifics of that class in general, but if it's anything like how I prep for the Q, it goes as far into the bush as you want to go.
Oh yeah,
it gets a little bit harder than just very basic things.
Well, they had these formulated pharmaceutical tablets.
Oh yeah,
that they dissolved in 1 liter of water, of like distilled water, and it was like their definition of sour or bitter or fruity. Like when they say fruity, it means like a specific thing. Yeah. And they've done this in order to get everybody who's doing coffee tasting on the same page.
Yeah.
When we say, phenol, we mean this.
Right.
And when we say, what was it, apple, we mean this.
Right.
And so that was really interesting because the standards were different than the references. You'll read coffee packaging that said this tastes like cotton candy, right? Or Fruit Loops or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But those are more like references to help people get it. But the standards are very, very specific flavor notes that and aromas that they're trying to kind of spread across the world so that people that are in this business that are doing cuppings can be all on the same page.
Right.
It was incredibly detailed, but super fun. If you get a chance to go to a CQI class, you should do that. Shout out to Joey with Cafe Creole who led it, did a fabulous job. What a guy. So anyway, if you'd like to pick up roasting as a new hobby or peruse a wide inventory of coffee roasters or green coffee beans, there are no better places to do that than at coffeebeancorral.com and currentcroproastingshop.com or currentcroproasting.com, sorry. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it, which was quite a bit. Please leave us a review, rating if you did, on the podcasting app of your choice. We're excited to watch the Roast It Yourself podcast grow and expand and conquer the world and reach more and more people, but we can't do that without you guys. So we appreciate you liking or reviewing or rating our podcast.
Yes.
Remember, send us questions. We love questions. We'd love to answer them. So send them about coffee in general, coffee roasting in particular, to questions@riypod.com. And we'll shout you out on the show and we'll answer your question. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
Happy roasting.